Welcome to 21st Sports Recap and Reaction for the San Diego Chargers at the Green Bay Packers in their Week 6 matchup played October 18, 2015. We're going to go over all the scores and the stats and give our breakdown and analysis. Starting off in the first quarter, about midway through with about 8.5 minutes still left to play in the first, Aaron Rodgers hit James Starks for a 5-yard touchdown pass. Crosby added the extra point, and it was 7-0 Packers over the Chargers. Then with a little over 3 minutes left still in the first, Josh Lambo, playing for the Chargers in Lambeau Field. But I've been waiting for this all year, but Lambeau hit the 36-yard field goal, and it was a 4-point game with the score 7-3 Packers over the Chargers. Then with less than 2 minutes left still in the first, James Starks breaks an amazing run. He was going to the left, he did a little spin, and then he went to the right, and he was off 65 yards to the end zone for the touchdown. Crosby added the extra point, and it was now an 11-point game with the score Green Bay 14, San Diego 3. So that was the score after one quarter of plays. It looked like the Packers were going to run away with this one at this point. And midway through the second quarter, with about 7 minutes left before halftime, Crosby added another 3 with a 23-yard field goal, and it was 17-3 Green Bay over San Diego. But then just before halftime, the final play of the first half, Phillip Rivers hit Dontrell Inman for a 1-yard touchdown. Lambeau added the extra point, and it was now a 7-point game. Green Bay 17, San Diego 10, heading into halftime. So now in the third quarter, with about 9.5 still left in the third, Phillip Rivers threw a second touchdown pass to the game. This one a 19-yarder to Ladarius Green. Lambeau added the extra point, and this game was now tied up at 17 apiece. So 14 unanswered at this point, 14 straight points for the Chargers, going back to that last play of the first half, and now they're the first team to score in the second half. But then with less than a minute left in the third quarter, Rodgers hits James Jones for an 8-yard touchdown pass. And now with the extra point by Crosby, it was 24-17. The Packers back up by 7 now. So that would do it for the third quarter. Then in the fourth, a little less than 4 minutes into the fourth quarter, a little over 11 left to play, Lambeau with a 32-yard field goal for San Diego. And it was a 4-point game with the score Green Bay 24, San Diego 20. Then with 2.5 left, Crosby would hit a 28-yard field goal, and that would make it 27-20 as the Packers went up by a touchdown. San Diego would drive all the way down the field on their next possession, get into the red zone, and they had a chance to tie this game and send it into overtime. But the Packers come up with an incredible goal line stand, and the Chargers would turn the ball over on downs when Randall swatted one away. And so the Packers would take over, and they would take the knee in the victory formation. And this game came to a close as Green Bay wins 27-20 as they hold off the Chargers and Phillip Rivers. And Rivers had quite an amazing game. He did have the 2 touchdowns, but he was struggling to get the San Diego Chargers into the end zone. He had 503 yards in this game, a career high. Also career high completions and attempts. He was 43 for 65. And Aaron Rodgers was 16-29, 255 yards and 2 touchdowns. So Rivers throwing almost twice as many yards as Rodgers. And if you would have told me before the game Rivers would throw twice as many yards as Rodgers and lose, I would have been like, what? But the Packers stay undefeated. They're 6-0. And Green Bay, they do what they have to do to win. And their defense is bend but don't break. You know, San Diego kept marching down the field with a pass through the air with the arm of Rivers, kept driving them down the field. But they turned the ball over on downs twice in this game. They would have to settle for field goals. They got into the end zone twice, but they did not take advantage of their opportunities. As the Packers, like I said, they let them get down the field, but then they shut the door on them, and they were not going to let them take this game in Lambeau. despite the excellent effort by Lambeau for San Diego, as Lambeau was perfect at Lambeau. You know the Packers got to get Lambeau. Like, they got to figure out some way to get Josh Lambeau on their team just because of his name. But Starks, what a performance by Starks. Of course, that 65-yard touchdown run, that was pretty spectacular. And in this game, he had 10 carries for 112 yards and that 65-yard touchdown. Rodgers actually had 2 carries for 14 yards as well. And for San Diego, Melvin Gordon, 7 carries for 29 yards. Oliver, 7 carries for 23 yards. As they were not able to get anything going on the ground. Of course, they really weren't trying to get much going on the ground, as it was just pass. And a lot of this to the Packers, they jumped out to that early lead, and then San Diego was playing catch-up. And so then at that point, it was just all about throwing the ball. And the Chargers don't really have that good of an offensive line, but Phillip Rivers is a good quarterback, and he releases that ball quick, and he was just getting rid of it. And so, they had a pretty big day through the air, but not on the scoreboard. Like I said, the Packers coming up clutch with the big plays when they needed them the most and keeping that score down, allowing only 20 points even with all that production through the air. Keenan Allen had 14 receptions for 157 yards. Floyd had 5 receptions for 95 yards. Gates, 9 receptions for 95 yards. Wood had 5 receptions for 63 yards. He also had 8 yards rushing off of 7 carries to give him a total of 71 yards in the game. And on the other side, for the Packers, Janis, 2 receptions for 79 yards. Cobb, 2 receptions for 38 yards. Rodgers, 2 receptions for 34 yards. And Jones, 2 receptions for 30 yards, including a touchdown. Of course, Starks had that touchdown catch, that 5-yard touchdown catch. And that gave him 2 total touchdowns on the game and 117 total yards. So he had the 112 rushing. Like I said, Lambeau was perfect in this game for the Chargers, 2 for 2 on the field goals, 2 for 2 on the extra points. Crosby was perfect as well, 2 for 2 on the field goals, 3 for 3 on the extra points. And on defense, Micah Hyde, 9 tackles. Palmer also had 9 tackles. Shields with 8 tackles. Clinton Dix forced a fumble. He had 7 tackles as well. Randall with 7 tackles. He also batted down that ball. They would turn the ball over on downs when the Chargers were right there threatening to send this game into overtime. The Packers coming up with an incredible goal line stance. And so that's the thing, like I said, they bend, but they don't break. They'll let them, march down the field. And the thing was, this was once they already were playing with a big lead. And so it kind of changes the dynamic of the game once the team abandons the run and just is passing it like crazy. And you're playing with a 2-touchdown lead. Of course, they let them get back in it. They got that touchdown the last play of the first half and then score first in the third quarter there in the second half to make it a tied game. But the Packers just kept on keeping on. And Rodgers, not like a big game statistically, but he did what he had to do. And that's what the Packers do. They do what they have to do to win. It's not necessarily about the numbers. It's all about the W's, and that's why they're undefeated. But Jones had a sack. Peppers had a sack. Daniels had a half a sack, and Neal had a half a sack. Neal also forced a fumble as well. And then first downs, 32 first downs for San Diego, 17 first downs for the Green Bay. On third down, the Packers were 3 for 9, just 33% converted. The Chargers 9 for 18, converting 50% of their third downs. 1 for 3 on the fourth down, converting 33%. So you see they just kept the chains moving, 32 first downs, and also 9 of those came on third downs. As Phillip Rivers kept marching them up and down the field, driving them down with his arm. Like I said, once they got down there, though, they would turn the ball over on downs twice, especially that final possession. And also, they were having to settle for field goals a couple times. And, and a lot of punts as well. But they actually punted the ball. Well, they punted it 3 times. So anyway, with total net yards, 548 net yards for the Chargers, 370 for the Packers. Net rushing, 133 for Green Bay, just 60 for San Diego. And through the air, net passing, 488 for the Chargers. Rivers sacked 3 times, losing 15 yards. And for Green Bay, 237 through the air netted, is Rodgers was sacked 3 times, losing 18 yards. We look at the penalties, 9 penalties for San Diego. So they were shooting themselves in the foot. 76 penalty yards, 6 penalties for Green Bay, just 50 penalty yards. The Chargers fumbled twice, lost it once. We look at the red zone. And in the red zone, the Packers 2 for 4, 50% in the red zone. San Diego just 2 for 6, 33%. Is 4 times they did not get touchdowns. So, I mean, you get in the red zone 6 times, only score twice, you're going to lose 9 times out of 10. And they actually had the ball they dominated the time of possession, 38 minutes to 22 minutes for Green Bay. And so the Packers, they were letting them march down the field. And that's actually the thing about the defense. You got to give them credit. The fact that even though they were on the field almost twice as much as the offense, and they were letting up all those yards through the air, that they would come up clutch when it mattered most. And once they got down there into the red zone, shutting them down 4 times, only allowing 2 red zone touchdowns, forcing them to have to settle twice for field goals, and then twice forcing them to turn the ball over on downs in the red zone, that was very clutch by the Packers defense. They said a lot of yards, but not a lot of points. And so that's where they came up big, even though San Diego, like I said, they were getting the first downs, they were moving the chains on 3rd down, but they were not converting in the red zone, and that's where the Packers came up big. As like I said, once again, they bend, but they don't break. But let me know what you think in the comments section below. Definitely interested to read your thoughts and opinions. Thank you very much for listening. It is greatly appreciated. I hope you're having a good day and had a great weekend, and enjoy all the sports.